Hey y'all, welcome back to the Honey Brown Lifestyle. As you can see, this is going to be a different type of video today. I'm by myself and we will be discussing my road to grad school. If y'all are new here, welcome. My name is Armecia and I share this channel with my little sister Nyla, and we do videos on lifestyle and fashion, majority lifestyle. So if y'all are interested in hearing about my grad school journey, stay tuned. Alrighty guys, so we're gonna start off with when I decided that I was gonna go to grad school. So about my junior year in undergrad, I attended a internship at Disney World called the Disney Culinary Program, where I was a cook at Sunshine Seasons in Epcot. And about 2 months after that, I was transferred to work the Food and Wine Festival. So while I was there, I got to meet a bunch of great people. I learned a lot of good techniques. And if you did not know, I was at that time going to school to become a chef. Well, that program burned me out. I worked from 40 to 75 hours a week, and it was just nonstop. You'd wake up, you go to work, you come home, take a shower, just to wake up and go to work again. It was that type of rigor, and I felt like I would never be able to enjoy life. And so I knew that wasn't the path that I wanted to go down anymore. And so at the time, my boyfriend was working for Airmark and he was catering supervisor. And I enjoyed just going to see what he was up to, even though I wasn't supposed to be there, honestly. But I would always go and see him set up events. And during some of my classes, I would be a part of setting up events and executing events, and that is what I found a passion for. And while I was at Disney, I always saw these huge events that they would execute, and I'm sure it took enormous amount of time enormous amount of time to plan and execute. But I was just so intrigued on the planning and execution of events, and so that is why I decided to go to grad school to become an event planner. So now that I knew I wanted to go to grad school, I knew that I would have to figure out where I was going and what I would be studying. And so I Googled what programs would allow me to become an event planner on Google, obviously. And the top two results were tourism administration and hospitality in any form. And so I then began to search what colleges offered those programs. That gave me about 6 results. However, I then noticed that application fees aren't very budget friendly. And so I knew I wouldn't be able to apply to all 6 just due to the fact that I did not have it like that. I could not afford to apply to all 6 schools. And so that's where I started my narrowing process. To narrow down the schools that I actually would apply to, I made a list of my wants and needs that I wanted to achieve out of my grad school experience. Some of those needs were it had to be close to home. If y'all didn't know, I went away for college for undergrad. I attended Mississippi State University, where I achieved my degree in culinology. And that was a 14-hour drive from where I currently live. And so I knew I didn't want to be that far away from home. I wanted to be able to drive to my house and back in one day if need be. And so it had to be close to home. I also wanted a on-campus experience. I did not want to do online classes, although the pandemic hit, and most likely I'll be doing online classes for at least one semester. But I didn't want to do online classes because I am not good at online classes, and I knew that about myself, so I just don't want to set myself up for failure. I also wanted to be able to gain a mentor and work on campus during this program. I want to be able to learn from the people around me and the people teaching me, and for them to actually be in the field to gain networking opportunities. And lastly, I wanted the school to be in a city where my career field, which would be event planning, would thrive. because most likely I won't be trying to move after grad school. I want to stay where I am, where I made all these connections and networking opportunities and build my career there. So after narrowing my process, I wanted to go visit as many schools as possible in that initial 6, just to see if I would like the school, if I like the environment, if I would be a good fit there. However, I was able to visit 2 of the schools that were in my top 3 category that I thought that I would most likely end up at. And that gave me an insight on how their school functioned, what my experience would be like, just get a feel of the school. And those 2 actually were my top 2 choices. After visiting the schools, I began to apply. And how I applied was I applied in the order of ranking for me. So I applied to my number 1 school first, my number 2 school second, my number 3 school third, and so on and so on. I first began to fill out all the basic information, my name, graduate school, education history, work history, all the easy stuff to fill out first. And then I began to do the essays on the back end. So I would fill out all of the school's basic information to begin with, and then I would obviously take a break, and then I would come back and write the essays in the order of importance to me. Once I finished writing the essays, some schools needed a GRE score. Well, I needed to take the GRE, and other schools did not. However, my number 1 and 2 school needed me to take the GRE. This is obviously before COVID, when people actually had to take the GRE. And so I scheduled my GRE a month in advance from when I was supposed to take it. However, I did not start studying for the GRE until like a week prior to when I was supposed to take it, which I do not recommend. In my mind, I thought the GRE would be like a SAT or an ACT, and I didn't really study for those either when I took those. And so I thought it would be pretty basic information, like I could study real quick and be able to pass. Well, the GRE is hard, y'all. It is hard. It is one of the hardest tests I've ever taken in my life. Most of those words we'll never use or hear in our life. And I just think the test is just way too hard for no reason, honestly. But I did okay. I got a decent score. I was not happy with it. Honestly, it was a trash score for me. And most schools, it's not like you're trying to hit a certain score. You're trying to be in a certain percentile. So it's basically a competition to see if they're going to accept your GRE score or not. And so word from me, study for your GRE months in advance, because it is a hard test. And honestly, it could be what makes or breaks you getting into a school. So we began applying for these schools. We'd taken the GRE. We're in the middle of writing our essays, and I came to a huge realization. I knew where I wanted to live. I knew where I wanted to settle down. And I no longer wanted to apply to all these basically throwaway schools. And so I began to chop them off my list. I no longer cared about their application. I no longer went back to their application. And that left me with 2 schools. And that would be the 2 DC schools, George Washington University and Georgetown. And so if I didn't get into these 2 schools, I would have no safe barrier to go anywhere else. I was putting all my eggs in one basket because in my heart, I knew that that's where I wanted to be, and I was going to do whatever it took to get there. So now I only had to focus on 2 schools and getting their applications in by the first priority deadline. I wanted to make it by that deadline because those students get the most scholarship money if they are accepted. And because I'm not rich, I needed that because school ain't cheap. So I needed to get my stuff in by that day. And it was stressful due to the fact that the GRE scores take about 2 weeks to a month to get in. Even though it's an automatic test, the writing portion takes a while. And getting your recommenders to send in their recommendation letters on time is a task. And so I was starting to get worried. However, I did get George Washington's application in about 3 days before the first priority deadline, which was a good thing. However, I was dragging my feet on Georgetown's application because it needed an essay, and I hate writing essays. I hate it. And their essay was so out there. It wasn't like, tell me about yourself, tell me why you should be in this school. It was more of it was like something about politics, and I hate writing about that stuff. So I was just like, I'm just drag my feet a little bit. But their priority 1 deadline was also a month after George Washington's. So I applied for George Washington University on February 10th of 2020. And on March 2nd of 2020, I received an email that I had gotten accepted. And I was so thrilled to get accepted into your #1 school. And I threw away all of my safe schools because I just knew I would get into this one. I felt so accomplished. And because I got into my #1 school, I did not finish the Georgetown application. I didn't finish it. And so I was like, yay, I'm going to college. And so I began to plan my move from Mississippi to DC. As I was planning my move, I didn't notice how difficult it would be and stressful to move across states to another one and do it in a very short period of time. And I began to feel very frustrated. I had graduated in December of 2019, but I stayed in Mississippi through July of 2020 because my apartment lease was not up, and I was not going to pay for a lease that I won't live in it. So I decided to stay for the extra 6 months and just save up money for the move. So in April of 2020, I submitted a deferral form to George Washington University. And what a deferral form is a request for you to change terms in which you're going to start a program. And a lot of colleges offer this, especially during graduate degrees, for if you need to change your term for various reasons. Now, this had to go through a lot of approval for it to get approved, but about a month later, it did get approved. And so now I will be starting, instead of starting in the fall of 2020, I will be starting in spring 2021. So that gave me extra time to save up money and plan for this move with as little stress as possible. So where we are now, I am at home in Virginia, living with my parents and siblings until I move to DC in January. This video is my first video of the grad school series, and so y'all need to subscribe and turn on your post notifications so y'all can stay up to date with what I'm doing in grad school. Right now, I have searched for apartments, and I have a date scheduled to go to DC and look at apartments. So it will be fun, y'all. I will take y'all on this whole journey with me, so y'all stay tuned. Alrighty guys, that's gonna be the end of this video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you haven't already, subscribe down below. Hit that post notification button so you don't miss any of the uploads. And hit that like button and comment down below if you went to grad school, where you went, and if you didn't go to grad school, why you chose not to. If y'all haven't already, share this video with anyone and everyone in your family. Let them know what we're doing here on the Honey Brown Lifestyle. Until next time, I will see y'all in the next video. Bye guys.